Hi, I'm Liam, and I recently took the SAGE testing.
What SAGE test did you take?
I took English, writing, science, and math.
Did you find anything unusual with the test? Can you tell us a little bit about the test and what you experienced while you were taking the SAGE test?
Well, yes, actually. The English and writing were normal tests. As you know, when you take a test, it's bubble questions with white background and black letters. And so those were normal tests. But when I started getting to the science, it got very unusual. There were lots of colors, and it stopped being more of a bubble test, but it became more of a puzzle kind of question. You are having to manipulate virtual objects, move stuff around, and it's like a puzzle. But the weird thing was the math, and the math was like an array of colors, and it was completely colorful. It was like looking at a rainbow through a kaleidoscope. Felt very weird. The questions were twice as strange as they were in the science. They were, just moving stuff around. You're flipping stuff, building. It's very strange. And so yeah, after I got done with the test, I felt dizzy, my stomach hurt, but just mild things. But yeah, it was very strange.
Tell me about this manipulation. What kind of things did you have to manipulate? This was on the math test?
Math and science, but more math.
And so, what happened with the science? There was some manipulation involved in the science?
Yeah, it started out by just dragging stuff over, and then it just got some more stuff. In math, you would have to build graphs, sort of, like lines, and you would have to put stuff on graphs, and then I can't really describe all the questions, the other ones. There was, it was like a puzzle is really the best way I can describe it,
Well, when you say that there were an array of colors like a rainbow, and you say there was like an intensity, describe this to the viewer, because I have no idea, and the viewer would have no idea what you're talking about. Describe what this intensity was like in the math.
Well, it was like pulsing, pounding at you, and then the colors, they started out by just coloring a few words, the color thing, and
you were supposed to manipulate the colors?
I'm not really sure, but I did. It wasn't so much like you're paying attention to colors, just there were colors. You were just manipulating words and objects.
Okay, so while you're manipulating words and objects with your mouse, you noticed all these colors in the background. Tell us about those colors.
So the first color I started seeing was, you start rolling the mouse over, and then the color and the word you roll over just started highlighting. Normal thing, not so much, but then they started just highlighting, just for no reason, just not highlighting, but just different colored text throughout the thing, and then it started being rainbowy, just bunches of different colors for the words, and the background, it was, sort of sometimes, I would look at it, and I couldn't be sure if it was moving or not, it was like multiple swishy rainbows, like a bunch of paint mixed together for the background.
And this was all in your math test?
Math and a little bit in science.
So this background, you describe it as an array of colors or as a rainbow. Describe that.
Just splashy, weird. It wasn't like that all the time. Other times it was cubed colors, sort of, or sometimes it was like pixely or dots, but a lot of times it seemed to be that painty looking thing where it's splashing, and not like splashing, but looked sort of liquidy, and during those times it seemed almost like it was moving, like trick of the eye.
It's like a trick of the... And again, I have to ask you this again. This was all in math, in your math test?
Yes, this was math, which, I wouldn't expect anything in math, but...
So you found that a little bit strange that you would find all these images in math rather than a science or maybe a history or language arts?
Yeah, if I were to, say something would be strange or off in a test, it would be science or history, not math. Math is numbers. You got add this with this, or multiply this with this. You don't have manipulating, dragging, crossing, and then all these colors on you.
And what were the colors? What do you think the effects of the colors were?
It was like they were just trying to confuse you, make the test harder. The colors, they came, and then it sort of felt like they were there, and then there was another wave, like boom, another wave, boom. And then so I started getting a headache, and and did you say what was the effect of the colors?
Well, you mentioned some pulsing lights. Was this also in the math?
I don't know, pulsing lights. Maybe I didn't say that right. It just sort of like felt like pulsing. Just the whole thing. When you just the whole thing of it combined just felt like pulsing. Maybe it was in my head. I couldn't be sure. Like also, there were times when it felt like the screen was moving and wriggling.
And this was all while you were taking these SAGE tests.
SAGE test, yeah.
Was anything in the science section of the test that way, or the literature, language arts section of the test?
Well, the last test I did was writing, and it was just 2 questions, just one like click this multiple choice thing, and the second one was just write a little essay. So writing was nothing, but language arts, it was just black and white, multiple choice test.
You didn't find anything unusual with the language arts section of it?
No.
What about the science?
Science was just a toned down version of math.
What do you say toned down? What does that mean?
It's like taken down a notch, several notches, Scale of 1 to 10, you got at the bottom number 1, English and writing, and then say maybe you got a 5, science, and then 10 of weirdness would be math.
Yeah. And so you said you felt an intensity, you felt as though the screen was moving around at times.
And it was like urging, sort of. When you were taking it, it's like move on, sort of like a quickness, like, like couldn't wait to get out of there, kind of thing like that,
And what was your feelings? What was your emotions while you were taking this test? What was the effects of the test on you psychologically?
Probably the basis of it would just be an anxiety,
And what do you think caused that anxiety?
It was so strange and such a, hard test. It just made you feel weird, like you gotta be over with this. It's, it's not right,
Do you usually have problems taking exams, end-of-year exams?
Oh, well, all tests are, all those end-of-the-year tests, they're boring, This was not a boring test. I'm sure every kid says the same thing. You go into a test, sure you can't wait for it to be done, but, it's boring, unless you're, like, not a smart kid and you can't do it, it's usually boring. But this was not a boring test. This was a very strange, unusual, sort of interesting test.
What would you say was the interesting part about it?
Just all of it. It was, colors, no longer multiple choice. All those end of the year tests I always take, they're always just fill in the bubbles. Sometimes it's on paper, and sometimes it's on the screen. Just click your answer, but it's never been like this. Sometimes they'll have you drag something, but not like this. Manipulation and colors,
Was there any other part of the test that seemed unusual? Were there any things that you were told to do or asked to do? Was there anything else unusual with the test?
Yes, there was actually. The teacher, sort of like her first thing she had me do, she gave me my paper to log in, and then she comes over once I've logged in and she gives me these headphones, and she says, okay, you have to put these on, and so, do I have to, can I just not listen with these? And then she's like, no, you have to put them on.
You have to put on headphones for the test?
Yes, you have to put them on. So, I'm just there, she's the teacher, she says put them on, so I put them on. So, get my headphones, how does this plug in? And then so finally she comes over and shows me how to plug it in. So I plug it in and I start the test, click, and so while I'm doing the test, so the voice comes and he says, click this to move on, and then it changes, so there's a second person saying it, and then it changes again, they're in harmony, and then they're switching, and then they add another person, and then so it's there's 3 or 4 voices, different people telling you instructions, and I thought that
all this at the same time?
Sometimes they were saying it together, sometimes they took turns, Sometimes, they would speak in harmony, 2 voices at once, blah, blah. And then sometimes it was just one voice, and then they would alternate, But, after a while, yeah, and, with other stuff, on the computer, my computer has, they'll tell me an instruction, and then there'll be this guy or girl speaking. But it's always just one voice, never this, multitude of voices. And there were sounds too, sort of fuzzing sounds sometimes. There would be shrieking sounds, the person would be talking, and then all of a sudden at the end of the sentence he'd go, and it'd shriek, make you wince. And then sometimes they'd talk so low, it'd be real slow. Sometimes they'd go in the cartoons when you're watching, and then sometimes there'll be the talking and super speed, so it's and so yeah, it was like that too. It would go super slow, super low, high, and fast. Lots of different people talking. Sounds like you would hear in an alien movie, when the UFO's coming down. I'm not gonna say yeah, sort of like that, spaceship noises. Yeah, but so I'm thinking my headphones are broken or something. So I exit out of the test, go over to the sound thing, and turn it all down. And then so I go back into the test, and they're still there. And so I go back out, and I see they've turned back on. So I do that again, and one more time, and they keep turning on. So I go into the main thing of the computer and just turn down all sound. And I go back into the test, and they're still going. And then so I eventually just have to go into the main things of the computer and just disable all speakers and sounds and stuff like that.
Sounds like you know your way around a computer pretty good.
I'm not a hacker or anything, but I guess, yeah.
And so, didn't you think this was a little strange that this was happening to your computer? Did you ask the teacher what was going on, or did you raise your hand and ask the teacher to come over?
No, I don't really think like, the teacher, she gave me the headphones and no, I didn't ask her to. I didn't really feel like
Well, was she around? Was she helping you with the test? Was she behind you? Was there somebody looking at you while you took the test?
well, there was the room, and then right, I was at the very front row, and so right in front of me there was her desk, and so she was just there looking at the kids. She could see our faces, but not the screens, so that was how she was positioned. She would only come back when someone raised their hand.
So the screens of the test were facing away from her.
Yeah, so we were all facing towards the door, and she was at the front of the classroom looking at us.
So she could only see you, not the computer screens themselves.
No, she never seemed to be able to see the screens, except for like logging in or stuff when she would help the kids.
And so these voices and these, I have to call them strange, unusual sounds, all were happening while you're trying to take a test?
Yes, so I just figured my headphones were broken or something. So I just disabled them.
And did you ever try to unplug the headphones or anything?
I didn't want to because I thought about that. I thought I could just unplug them, but I figured I would still hear the noises out of the computer, and then the teacher would just come over and tell me to put them back on. So I just disabled them.
And after the test, tell us about your experience after the test. You finished the test, submitted your answers. What happened then?
Well, the teacher comes over. She's like, "Are you sure you're done?" I'm like, "Yeah." And so she says, "All right, you can go." And so I'm driving home with my dad, and I'm just dizzy. My eyes sort of hurt, like when you're watching TV for a long time and then you get up and then you're sort of dizzy, like there's sparkling in your eyes. Felt like that, but also my stomach hurt, which I thought was strange, like why would my stomach be hurting, like just had a stomach ache. And so my head hurt. It was sort of pounding in my head, like when you've got an ear infection, like that buzzing you get.
And this was all after the test?
Yeah, this was after the test.
It sounds like even while you're describing it, you're getting a little bit of an anxiety. Is that right?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know. It's because it's, scary, I guess. It was so scary being in there.
Why?
It was just unnatural, strange test. I felt like, I don't know, like, it was almost like I'm not being tested. I don't know, it's like it. I don't know. It was not like, I was taking the test, but it wasn't like the whole thing was on the test. It was like almost like I don't know, maybe even being brainwashed or something like that. It was very odd. And it's like, yeah, it was a test, but there was so much other stuff, coming in. It's like you couldn't even concentrate on the test. How are you supposed to concentrate on a test when you got squeaking and squealing in your ear, and then you also have all these colors in your eyes, and then, you're in a hard, like, temperature in the rooms are always, they're always real cold, but, then cold, so that your ears can't concentrate, your eyes can't concentrate, and you're sitting in there for hours, and, it's very hard to concentrate on the test.
Well, thank you. I know it seems to have been hard for you to recall all that, but, you're a hero for doing so. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Noriega here, author of If It's Broken, Don't Fix It. I'm here with Melody.
Hi.
Melody, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here.
I'm here because I watched the video of the kids' experience in the SAGE test, and it alarmed me. So I talked to my daughter because she, did the practice test, and I just found out some things that were scary.
Well, what prompted you to start asking your daughter these questions?
Well, when I watched the video, because she didn't ever talk about it, it was just a practice test, and so I watched the video and I thought, I better ask her. And so I, it was really casual. I said, did anything unusual happen when you were doing your practice test?
And what did she tell you?
First, she was kind of, she was like, she didn't really want to talk about it. And so, I said, well, if anything strange happened, then, you need to tell me. And so, I had her watch the video, and as soon as he said, well, with the headphones, and it shrieked, she goes, it did. I mean, she just stood right, I really think she thought she was the only one that heard that. And like something she was felt like she was hearing things.
And she had never told you that before?
No.
About the SAGE test that she had taken? This was the practice SAGE
Just
test.
practice, yeah.
This wasn't the full-on SAGE test.
Because I opted her out after I had, read more about it. But before we could opt her out, she did have to do one practice test in her English class.
Okay, so it was in that practice test where she had to wear the headphones and heard these noises. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit more about that. What were her reactions, or what were your reactions after you heard that?
I was alarmed. I said, why didn't you tell me? And she said, I don't know. I didn't think you'd believe me. That's what she said. And so I said, well, what did you do when you heard it? And she said, well, it startled me. It just kind of made me jump. And she said, I thought they were broken. And she goes, and I could hear the buzzing. And so after he shrieked, she just pulled him off her head and had him around her neck. She left him plugged in. And I said, well, what about your teacher? Did your teacher come over and say, put your headphones back on? And she said, no, she helped us log on. And then she went to her desk and she was on her computer. She didn't walk around.
She didn't get a chance to actually see the screens themselves.
Right.
Which is a question that's going around. Do the proctors get to see the screens?
Yeah, as far as I know, I don't think I asked her if her teacher walked around, and she said no, she just helped them log on, and then she went and sat down at her desk.
And what troubles me more about what you said is the fact that your daughter said that she didn't tell you because she didn't think that you'd believe her. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that your daughter and you usually have a pretty open conversation, pretty open relationship where she could tell you things?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she tells me everything.
So what do you think that she thought that you wouldn't believe her, or that you have to keep that she had to keep something like this from you?
Well, I think maybe I know she was worried that I wouldn't believe her. I don't know why, because we don't ever doubt what she tells us. And I think maybe she felt like I don't know. I really don't know.
Maybe it was too much.
Yeah.
It was too much.
Yeah.
Those are some of the things that my son was saying. It's so much that how do you tell anybody that? Especially when they're a kid.
Yeah.
When they don't let us adults look at the test ourselves, well, of course, we're going to think there's something wrong with shrieking headphones or colors on the screen or something like that. But when that happens to a kid, that's their whole life, is being believed or not, or being taken from somebody like somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about. Right. And that's what happened to my kid. After we posted the video, many people were saying that he was making it up or things like that. And that's exactly what we don't want the students to feel.
Right.
So we want the students to be able to come forward and be able to say what's happening to them and feel like they can communicate to their parents, this kind of thing. So what kind of message would you like to send out to other children or to other parents that that maybe don't know, or maybe their children might have had something like this and they don't know?
I think that the parents need to ask because she didn't come to me herself and say, "Hey, Mom, this happened on my practice SAGE test." I just asked her. I said, "Did any?" And I didn't prompt her. Did this happen or that happen? I just asked her if something strange happened, and had her watch the video. And the fact that she just, "Oh, it did," was like, okay, it really did. Somebody else had it happen to them, and it wasn't just me. So I think that parents need to talk to their kids and just tell them not to be afraid, because something's got to be done. This can't go on.
And that's right. That's exactly right. And that's why we're doing this. And tell me, I know that your daughter also spoke something about an incident about colors when we were on the phone. Can you explain that a little bit as well?
Yeah. Well, she, after, this was during the actual SAGE test, she was opted out, and she was across I don't know how big her classroom is, but she was doing her alternate assignment, and she kind of glanced over at the monitors, and one of them, not all of them, just one of them had the black background and hot pink text, and she thought, it was her friend, it was one of her girlfriends, and she's like, "Well, that's kind of weird." And so she just thought that was odd, and that's all, and then she just went back to her assignment. But, she didn't even tell me that until after either.
until after you were questioning her. And that's remarkable also, because it's just the one screen out of what she's noticing of the whole class.
Right.
Almost as if there's a selective group. Not everybody is receiving this test, but just one out of every classroom, or one out of every who knows how many.
Yeah.
But those that are experiencing these kind of things, and those are the people that have to come forward. Those are the people that have to say what's going on. So in your final remarks, what would you say?
I would say, please, parents, talk to your kids if they've taken the SAGE test, and ask them if anything unusual happened, and make them feel comfortable enough that they shouldn't be afraid to tell you, and be honest.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for being on this short interview, and especially thank your daughter. Your daughter is a hero. Out of all the people on Facebook that were posting things, you guys were the first ones to come forward and say, wait a minute, this happened to us too. Which that is something brave, and that is something phenomenal. You guys are both heroes, and you should be proud.
Thank
Your
you.
daughter should be proud.
I think your son is a hero.
Thank you.
I do.
Yeah, it takes a lot of courage
It does.
to actually come forward.
And she's just shy, but I think it's going to be a good thing.
Yeah,
I really hope so.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.